This might not be the video that you would expect, and I know a lot of people are going to think that it's damage control or something along those lines. It's not really. It's kind of a rags to riches type of situation, and I really felt like, you know, a lot of people might run with it the other way. Listen, I'm not a huge fan of 343 Industries, but I do think that it's just a very interesting situation that when all these things come out about the development of the game, you start to get a little bit of a clearer picture, and you see that, you know, they managed to pull off something wonderful, but how many times do you actually go out there and sort of expect that to happen? How many times do you play with fire? I think that there's probably some big changes that need to be made at 343 Studios, but I do think it's worth celebrating that they managed to get out something despite the fact that so many things were going against it and so many delays we didn't even know about apparently. So yeah, I do want to get into it. This is going to be a very interesting topic for sure. Hey there everyone, I'm the Crap Gamer, and of course this is Crap Gamer Reviews, your home for gaming news, opinions, reviews, and much more. You'll probably notice some changes around here, but hopefully that doesn't stop you from giving us a like, and maybe even consider subscribing if you haven't already done so. Thank you so much for choosing to spend some of your free time with me and my silly YouTube channel. It really does mean a lot. Now, as we've been saying, I think the Halo multiplayer is really good. It probably has been good for a while. That's why they really didn't hesitate to showcase it, which makes a lot of sense, right? Like, multiplayer portions are probably somewhat easier to get out there and to do than the single player stuff, and sometimes you can bite off a little bit more than you can chew. So when it comes to the overall game, the game sits at an 86 on Metacritic, which is really good. Right, and when you think about it, Halo 5 was an 84. The thing that I would say is a little bit suspect there is what Halo 5 is not great, even though I reviewed it great, and I've already said, you know, why that happened. When you go back and play it, obviously it's probably a low point for Halo, but I also kind of want to point out that, you know, it seems like I wasn't the only one that gave it a high score that really wasn't undeserving. So I think probably that Halo game, you know, Halo I think is too expensive of a game and a franchise to score in the 70s. Take for that what it's worth, but Halo 5 was probably a high 70s rated game if we're being honest. Now, going forward, Halo Infinite looks to have really gone all out and changed a lot of things. Jason Schreier, you guys remember him, used to be a Kotaku guy. Now he works for Bloomberg. He wrote an article, of course it's behind a paywall, but we do get some bits and tidbits behind it, and basically he tells all about the Halo Infinite development crisis. He says, by the summer of 2019, Halo Infinite was in crisis mode. The studio decided to cut almost 2/3 of the entire planned game, leaving managers to instruct some designers to come to the office and do nothing, while the studio figured out the next move. Eventually, the game's open world was cut back from a vast, Zelda-like experience into something far smaller. It soon became clear to some on the team that even with the compromises, getting Halo Infinite into decent shape by the following fall would be impossible. Still, the timing of the release didn't seem up for discussion. Microsoft told 343 that it had to be a launch game for the next Xbox, which meant releasing it in November of 2020. So we know that didn't happen. We know they delayed it. Thankfully, I can't imagine the state of this game what it would have been in 2020. I mean, just think about that. I mean, we saw how bad this game looked. Now, the multiplayer might have been a different thing, but what we see here, something a little bit different. And, you know, I just find it to be a little bit strange. Jason Schreier also says, he mentions a couple of tidbits that were trimmed from the article. 343's toolset Faber was so difficult to use that they spent months considering a switch to Unreal Engine. They didn't, and the game was delayed multiple times. One early plan was to release multiplayer in 2019 and campaign in 2020. So Phil Spencer kind of went on record and had mentioned that previously, that they had considered, you know, that possibility and things like that, which they ended up doing anyway. I mean, yeah, it was only a month early, but they did release the game's multiplayer a little bit early, and and there were some articles. I think Paul Tassi was one that from Forbes who made an article that said basically was okaying Microsoft to release the multiplayer and then the single player later on once it was ready. I guess there's also some other things in the game in this article that people can read, but you have to subscribe to it. Various things, like I think one of the things that can be extrapolated is the fact that it looks like co-op might have been cut and not going to be added later because the game is kind of a short game to begin with, and if you can beat it solo in 6 to 7 hours, then imagine if you're playing co-op, you're probably going to breeze through it in a few hours, and they didn't want that. So co-op might not be coming for multiple reasons. Maybe they want to wait till there's an expansion or something alongside it or whatever. But yeah, this is a very strange situation, and there was some other Jason Schreier little tidbits because I guess they were really 343 was really leaning heavily on contractors, and someone asked him, why does 343 lean so heavily on contractors? Why hasn't Microsoft put a new management team in place? It's been the weakest studio Xbox Studios since day one. And Jason Schreier said the entirety of Microsoft has a long history of using and being sued for abusing contractors. So that's another topic altogether. Obviously, Microsoft has made a lot of changes when it comes to the way that they handle things, but 343, and I mean, this game was 6+ years in development, so some of that has to go under, I guess, some of the old regime or whatever. But at the same time, I do think that it's very unfortunate that there's some negativity around this, and I do think that Microsoft has come a long way. Now, the interesting thing about the article is it says basically that it went from a disaster to something else, and I think that that's exactly the point, right? I think that the game was probably going to be a disaster, and they ended up managing to come together and do something absolutely great, so I that's you have to really be able to kind of look at that. Yes, are there weird things? Absolutely. There are very, very weird things going on with this game. Like, I'll give you a good example. One of the weird things is they didn't do a midnight launch for the biggest Xbox franchise ever, right? Like, that's a little bit of a weird thing. So the game comes out today as I'm recording this. It's the morning time. This is a rare time where I'll record it in the morning and then put the video out. But you can't even if you have the disc, you can't play the game right now, right? I think it's 1 p.m. Eastern that you're going to be able to do that. And some people were saying to me, well, that's because they don't want to flood the servers or whatever. To me, it doesn't matter what time, since it's a worldwide launch across the board, right? Like it is. It's just a worldwide launch across the board. And so when does it matter when you do the launch? Like I think that it should have probably been a midnight launch, like a 1 p.m. afternoon Wednesday launch. That's weird to me. But again, and it sucks for me because I was going to play through the campaign, but it's going to probably take me a full day to actually download it. So yeah, that's a little bit of a bummer, and it's disappointing. But yeah, so I do find that to be a little bit weird. But mainly, I just want to say that I think that they turned a really bad situation into a situation that is manageable. So I think that they deserve some props for that. It's nothing short of a miracle that they got this game out and that it's as good and as reviewed good as it has. Maybe it goes to show that they've made some changes and things like that. It is a very exciting prospect, and I am excited to see what happens in the future with Halo. But I'm interested to hear what you guys think. I mean, cutting 2/3 of this game out, I really do wish that was something that could happen. That we could get the rest of that game. Maybe it'll be DLC. Maybe it'll be something. I mean, they have to get the game out. They had to do it. It's being well received. Some people might think some of it's sketchy. I don't know. It's very curious, but I am curious to hear what you guys think. Let me know. I really do appreciate each and every one of you. This is a fantastic time to be a gamer. Don't get me wrong. I'm not being negative here. I think that what they were able to pull off, despite all the adversity, I think that's huge. I think that can't be understated at all. it really shouldn't be understated. And you know, it's really something that fans everywhere should, you know, be aware of. And I would just like really appreciate each and every one of you if you would, you know, just let me know what you think. I really do appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for rocking out with me. Rack 'em up, fact 'em up, Crap Gamer 'em up. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Crap Gamer out.